Good morning, everybody. Today is not February 10th, it's in fact April 7th, 2026. Would like to welcome everybody to the Talk About It Tuesday, the importance of updating NG911 GIS boundaries. We will do a couple of perfunctory slides and then get right into it. Well, this is our agenda. Next slide, Adam. This is a slide I've shown before. I think the last time I showed it to a group of ECD folks was at the Gulf Coast Conference. This is kind of where we are and where we're going with the GIS layers for the mandatory GIS layers for NG911 operations. Currently, we only use the PSAT boundary, and it is being used to route a subselection of wireless calls through a transitional geo-routing model. In the future, all 7 layers will be implemented and utilized during the call routing functionality as the NG911 GIS data model mandates. The information being used to route is obtained with a database dip. In the future, that information will come directly with the call in the PID of flow. And GIS data is currently being handed off manually between board, staff, data market, and digital. And in the future, it will be automatically passed through a spatial interface, which is one of the subcomponents of the NG911 data model, where it will be stored and then provisioned for the other functional elements. So I would like to go out on a limb and say the current is today and has been for about a year, and the future is now, within the next, hopefully, year, as we move through the summer and fall and start implementing NG911 functionality on the network. Oh, thank you. I didn't know I had a clicker. So I want to take the opportunity to kind of highlight what the boundary layers are. There's been a lot of question in the past about what actual boundaries we use and what boundaries actually do within the 911 system. As I highlighted on the previous slide, currently we only use the PSAT boundary. That is the operational boundary that determines 911 calls, where 911 calls should be routed. It is functionally who gets the 911 call. The boundary, think of it as where I place the 911 call, who should answer that call. It is a boundary that cannot have gaps or overlaps, as all the boundaries should not, but it is the one that we have gone through boundary facilitation to generate a topologically coincidental boundary layer, meaning it has no gaps or overlaps between all 105 feature layers within that boundary set. The provisioning boundary is what I like to colloquially refer to as the piece of the quilt. It is where your area of responsibility for GIS data maintenance is. We piece that together into a seamless statewide database as an entire blanket, and each patch for each ECD is the area of responsibility for uploading GIS to the aggregated data set. Again, cannot have gaps or overlaps or duplicates. And then finally is the ESBs, which will be the focus of the GIS program in the near and middle future. Those correlate with the first responder boundaries. They are separated into individual law, fire, and EMS boundaries to show the agency of primary responsibility for each type of dispatch. Again, sorry, we're having technical difficulties in the office. Again, this information is used currently. If you receive a wireless call, your information for law, fire, and EMS is blank. These layers will fill in that information in the PID of flow document that comes in with the call. So pause there for any questions, because I know there's been a lot of confusion in the past between what the PSAT boundary is and what the provisioning boundary is. Can you get on the chat, Adam?
That's what I was trying to look up.
Whose responsibility is it to submit the provisioning boundary? Is it the PSAP's boundary responsibility? Is it your responsibility? Where does that come from?
So it's a great question. For those that are astute observers on our call, we have an extra special guest who we'll get to in a little while. But the question,
you, Anderson.
I was referring to you.
Yeah. I'm just kidding.
We'll get to that in a minute. The responsibility to provide that information lies with the ECD. We will take that information, and it is the GIS program's responsibility to ensure that there are no gaps or overlaps. And where we find them, we will return that boundary to the district to see if we have received an inadvertent error or if there has actually been a change or a modification to the boundary for the intent of modifying the area of upload. So you provide the boundary, we provide the checks and balances.
So an ECD effectively might have multiple PSAPs within it, and the ECD is then responsible for submitting the PSAP boundary so that the calls can be routed appropriately.
That is in fact correct.
Okay.
And for a point of clarity on the PSAP boundary and how we arrived at a boundary without gaps and overlaps, in 2023, in the lead up to statewide geospatial call routing, we performed a statewide boundary facilitation project where we went to districts and said, hey, we have this as your boundary. Is this correct? And talked with neighbors about specifically where issues arose, primarily in Jefferson County, because it is the jigsawiest of puzzles that exist. And where, for a point of clarity, is not all districts participated in those boundary facilitations. So where a district said, this is authoritatively our correct boundary, we edge matched a non-participatory boundary. We will do the same thing in 2026 with emergency service boundaries. And for districts that engage and tell us this is law, fire, and EMS correct for us, we will edge match your neighbor who does not participate. So as we move through the 2026 boundary facilitation project, be thinking about that. I think it was a board meeting. I was asked the question, who in the run up for the boundary facilitation project, what should we, the ECD, be doing? And you should preemptively be reaching out to your first responders about authoritative boundaries that they potentially have or maintain. For a municipal response territory, obviously be their city limits. For county, it would be the county boundary. We can lean heavily on the PSAP boundary on the county level because we've already seen those up. But for municipal boundaries, that's going to be the primary focus of the emergency service boundary facilitation project. Awesome. They don't always have to match. There are going to be some cases. In fact, we see more and more of this now that we are realizing what the boundaries functionally do, where a provisioning boundary and a PSAP boundary do not or cannot be coincidental. This is usually a case where a first responder goes into a county because they are the closest, quickest responders, and the boundaries we are not drawing legally jurisdictional boundaries. We're not drawing city limits. We're not drawing counties. We're drawing areas of 911 responsibility and areas of GIS responsibility. So in the image to your right, obviously County A is on the left, County B is on the right. The county boundary being the dotted line is, their authoritative boundary. That we are not drawing county boundaries. I cannot stress that enough. Where County A, it would be the first in responder. We would bend the PSAP boundary or the provisioning boundary to encompass the area of responsibility that County A is seen to dispatch. And we actually have a real life case of that on our next slide. Yes, ma'am.
So in preparation for this conversation and to get ready for all of that, would it be wise for local governments to pull out their existing agreements on these and find out if it's written, if it's a handshake deal?
Absolutely.
Those types of things, because this can then put a visual to what those agreements have been. And that would be a nice visual to go along with your agreement.
Yeah. And we actually have the ability to store that within the schema structure of the GIS data itself, to hyperlink any, online documents. We could store that for you if you have a hand or a paper copy of it. We can digitize that for you and store a reference hyperlink in the GIS data itself so that you can pull it down at any time. Great point. Special envoy. This is a real life example of modifying boundaries. What you see on the right in the triangular area inside the red boundary is an area that is legally and physically in Elmore County. Elmore County would be the area off to the right. Autauga County is the area. I'm using the pointer like y'all can actually see the pointer. It would be the area to the left. Inside this area, it is actually Elmore County, but the city of Prattville. And so Autauga 911 is the primary dispatch responsibility for this area. And Elmore County previous to the boundary modification was receiving the calls. So we we actually took this triangle, switched it from Elmore County to Watauga County, and we saw an 86% reduction in transfers from the 3-week period prior to the boundary modification. There were 141 call transfers between Elmore and Watauga County. In the 3-week period after the boundary correction, we saw 26 call transfers. So this is a direct primary example of what I described earlier, where the area in question is in one county, but a separate 911 entity takes responsibility for those calls because of real life situations on the ground, and in effect highlights how important it is to get the correct boundary so that we can get the correct 911 call to the correct ECD or PSAP the first time.
Yeah.
So one of the interesting things I think about this is that if you're to just take the boundary, right, the Watauga Elmore boundary, and just overlay it into the routing of the network, then the calls still go to the wrong place, right? So just as a reiteration of what you said, you have to have local responsiveness in order to be able to make these corrections. I think that we found this particular issue. I don't remember how exactly, but it was Melissa, you, and Rachel were talking about, the number of transfers here. Melissa, having local expertise in Watauga and Elmore County, was able to come and say, hey, this needs to be corrected. And then we did such, because the goal is to just make sure the call gets to the right place the first time. Regardless, back to your previous example of where in the political subdivision the call falls, the PSAP boundary may be different. So that's really a restatement of what you said, but it also kind of drives home the point that you have to have local engagement to make sure that your calls are in the right place.
And Caleb highlighted at the first part of that is it is as simply as drawing the boundary to get the call to the correct 911 center. We are not drawing legal boundaries here. We can make any and all modifications that would streamline and make that process more efficient. Here is another example of what I was talking about, where boundaries do not have to be coincidental. What you're seeing here is Vestavia in Jefferson County. The area in gray is their PSAP boundary, but they have dispatch responsibilities for both fire and law that are outside their area of PSAP. So the area in pink is their fire boundary. The area in blue is their law boundary that actually have specific responsibilities outside their 911 duties. The area in question, the big blue area, is actually very interesting. We were talking with the Vestavia staff, and that is a country club in Jefferson County, not in any municipality for reasons that exist. But Vestavia is the dispatch for fire because they
And law enforcement.
and law enforcement, and because they have a agreement, whether it be handshake or written. I'm not.
It was a written.
It was a written agreement that I think it was codified in city ordinance. Correct. That they would have responsibility duties for that. So really, this image here is to highlight the stress the importance of boundaries do not have to be coincidental. They each have their own role and responsibility in the NG911 functionality. And they are their own entity, is the best way to say it.
The other thing I'd like to highlight in this particular slide is this was part of a grant project where we were doing some work with their emergency service boundaries. The points in pink there were part of what their fire response boundary polygons were. But the question was Vestavia the primary response agency for those areas? So the areas in pink were their mutual aid. I think it's important to highlight that what we're after with emergency service boundaries, the law, fire, and EMS, are the primary responsible responder agencies. I understand that just about everywhere across our state and everywhere else, there are mutual aid agreements in place and even auto aid agreements in place where somebody would be dispatched to go help somebody else. That is not this specific item that we are trying to capture.
Mm-hmm.
We are trying to capture the primary response agencies, the agency with primary response responsibility. Should have chosen a different string of words there.
I like to think about it as empowering. I mentioned it earlier in a current 911 call on a wireless call. There's no responder information associated with. There's no ESN assigned to a wireless call, right? So the purpose of the ESB boundaries in the 911 NG911 system is to empower the call taker to know with a wireless call who the correct dispatching responding agency should be. But
Yeah, absolutely. But again, we will find ways to capture some of these auto aid and mutual aid agreements in a GIS format. This is not that. This is to identify what agency is the primary responder today.
I kind of phrase it as a first look at response, right? So I receive the call, I answer the call, I look at the location on my alley display or my location display in a full next generation environment, and then I see the 3 response, fire alarm EMS, and I can start assigning that call based on, to whatever pod, or if you're doing all of it, whatever responder is responsible for going.
Absolutely. I was in a 911 center. And we were having a completely different discussion about GIS, and one of the dispatchers mentioned, "Hey, you're the map guy. Can you fix my ESN boundaries? We have been trained on when we are told that this ESN is the assigned ESN that's what we dispatch off of, but nobody's maintained that data for so long that there's been so many annexations and changes within the county that what we've been trained on to be infallible is not in fact infallible. We can't trust it anymore." So. That's something we can help you out with. We are currently helping that ECD, it's county ECD, with maintaining their municipal boundaries so that they can trust their CAD map. Awesome. Well, as I mentioned before, we have a very special guest in the office, special envoy to the Alabama 911 board, Leah Misseldine. But beside her is our new executive director, Caleb Branch. Welcome.
It's good to be here. So I'm excited about the opportunity that lies before this organization, the 911 centers in the state, the ECDs, as we continue to be the best program in the country and continue to improve. And so this has been, just kind of a realization of a dream of mine. This organization runs exceptionally well, and that's thanks to Leah's leadership and Adam and Anderson and Laura's hard work. And so, I'm excited about what's ahead. For most of you probably know me, but if you don't, I started my public safety career as a telecommunicator, and then worked as a paramedic on an ambulance, and was the director of Blount County 911, and then most recently was responsible for the deployment of the Alabama Next Generation Emergency Network, or ANGEN, here in the state, along with my compadres at InDigital. And so this is day 2 for me now as the executive director of this organization. I know a lot about 911 in the state of Alabama. I do not know a whole lot yet about how this office runs. And so this is a little bit like drinking through a fire hose. Especially at day 2, as we just kind of continue to onboard me from just an administrative standpoint. But I'm excited about what's ahead. We all know that there are several things that are ahead with regard to how this organization relates to the PSAPs, the ECDs that it serves. One of which is the passage of House Bill 268 through the House, now the Senate, and it sits on the governor's desk to be signed. And that will put greater oversight in terms of how calls are answered by PSAPs throughout the state, what is done with those calls, to make sure that it doesn't matter where you are, you get the same quality and level of service no matter what your location, whether that be in a municipal or a metro, semi-metropolitan area, or even a very rural area. The goal is to be able to make sure that caller gets the help on the worst day of his or her life. And so House Bill 268 will change how this office functions. You will see potentially new faces that help to make sure that we comply with that order from the legislature that is now on its way to becoming law. In addition to that, you'll see kind of refinement in how we do things. I am somewhat a fresh set of eyes. But the goal is not to do a wholesale replace of anything that's been done, but to continue to refine and get better. And so I'm excited about that challenge, that opportunity, and take seriously the responsibility to continue to make things better around here. So, like I said, this is day 2. I don't know if I'll be able to answer all your pressing questions, but we have a very competent and capable staff here that if I don't know it, somebody else probably here does. So it's good to be here on this Tuesday in April.
Not February.
It's not February. It's not.
February. Hey, everybody. Nikki Nettles offered in the chat. Good morning and congratulations again, Caleb.
Thank you, Nikki. So yeah, that's pretty well it. Most of you have my cell phone number. It's not changed. And my email address is caleb@al911board.com. So very easy to remember. And some of you have already reached out to me via that. But yeah, we're excited about what's to come. We're excited about the conference that comes up in May. And then, oh, that's a great segue. And then, hey, yeah, you have to say I didn't even know that was coming. And then, in addition to that, we're excited about the first board meeting with me as the executive director on the third Wednesday in May. So, those that are interested should show up for that as well. So, Laura, I will turn it over to you for more conference preview.
Sounds great. Hey, I know you guys probably all are registered. If you're not, you should be. It's less than a month from today, and I did highlight here some of our women in Alabama who will be speaking, and I'm super excited that that's a new addition this year where we open call for papers for some of you to hear from your peers. So I think it's super important, not just hearing from speakers across the country, but hearing from people that you work with and you see on the regular basis and hearing what they're going through so you guys can, spitball and off each other, not really spitball, but ideas and share experiences and things like that. So it starts on the 4th, if you didn't know already. And as you can see, I won't go through all the exciting things we're going to have, but one of the new things we're doing this year is the 2026 Alabama 911 Awards. We're having an awards luncheon sponsored by Rapid SOS. And you can see here where we've listed the different awards. Those who have been nominated, the majority of those who have been nominated have been emailed and are aware. We will be highlighting those nominees throughout the rest of the week. And so you'll be able to see it on our social media, but you can see the different awards here. You like the UVA, Anderson? UVA?
Yeah.
We're going to give a thing of sunscreen with it. No, I'm just kidding.
If Laura's giving it out, it's SPF 2000.
Hello. Yes. And you'll get a timer that goes off every 60 minutes to put it on because you got to do that to keep the freckles down and the sunscreen off. But anyway, so we'll be talking a little bit more about those awards. That's Thursday. And so we hope you guys are able to attend that. The day passes are $49 and the full conference is $99. And all the things that are included or listed or some of those there. You can see our schedule online. If you have any questions about that, of course, you can email Daniel or myself or education@al911board.com. But we are in the throes of the finalization of everything. But we're real excited about all the events that we have coming up on that. Just a little bit about upcoming training. While the conference is really our biggest focus right here in the beginning of the spring, and because we have so many different sessions, a variety of topics, educators, and number of CEU hours, we have a lot of that in May. But we do have a couple things coming up that are on the schedule next week. Do you want to briefly speak about your VEP training?
Yeah, we want to get the call out. I'll send another email today. The registration is a little low on that. I'd like to see a little higher. And again, if you've already attended this VEP training, you're welcome to attend again. In fact, encouraged to attend. But we are wrapping up the statewide data remediation project for minimum requirements to onboard into the spatial interface, and along with that, you are given a list of remaining remediation that Datamart could not make an authoritative decision on. That's what we colloquially refer to as the client verify GIS portion of the delivery. And, a lot of feedback we got was that it was confusing. They didn't know what to do. So if you're in that group where you've received your remediated data back and are unsure as to what the client verified document says needs to be done still, this training is for you. So, or you know what, if you just want to get a refresher on what VEP is and how to use it, come on down. It's free, 2 days, Thursday and Friday of next week in Tuscaloosa. And you should bring your client verified documentation. your laptop with Arc Pro installed. If you don't, we have a couple of laptops that do have Arc Pro installed. Not many. First come, first serve for those. But bring a happy face.
And then the Alabama EMD instructor course that we will be having June 1st through 3rd in Hoover. That is class 2 of 4 for calendar year 2026. I know that it's been long awaited and everyone is very excited. We had a full class in, oh gosh, into February last week. It was the last week of February. And
A month ago.
oh gosh, that over a month. Oh my goodness. Okay, so yes, we have this class. It is in Hoover. I think we are about halfway full as far as registrations go. And just know that we will only be offering that 2 more times in the year, and then we'll go for 2027. We'll kind of see what the need is. But it is a 3-day in-person class, and I'm so excited because I can look and see all of the EMD classes that are open now from the new instructors. And shout out to Clark County. 2 of theirs came and became instructors, and they are teaching 3 classes, boom, boom, boom. And we have so many others that teach them so frequently. So there are quite a few open classes. They are open to everyone at least 3 weeks in advance. If you don't have your people EMD certified, please take advantage of that. They're all in the registration link where all the rest of our classes are. But again, if you have questions about the prerequisites or anything like that, please email me and let me know. I know that we just talked about the conference, but I thought about one thing and just remembered it. If you have registered on our conference site for the post-conference ENP 8-hour boot camp with Ty Wooten and Sarah Weston of 911 Wonder Women, we noticed that some people selected they were attending that on our conference registration page, but did not actually click the registration link through 911 Wonder Women, and that is required. Jesse sent emails out, I think it was last week, just touching base with people. So if you have registered through that, but not paid the $20 through CVent, which is 911 Wonder Woman's platform, please do so. Again, if you have questions, you can respond to Jesse or email any of us about that. And next week is National Public Safety Telecommunicator Week. And we are so excited. For the first time since I have been here, the entire staff is available. And we have an additional couple people since the last 2 years. So between the 9 of us, every one of your centers is going to be visited. And I'm very excited to say that, all 104 of you. And we are going to be bringing you just a small token of our appreciation because you guys are awesome. And you just knock our socks off. So we are so excited to come thank you in person and then share with you a little contest to help you enter into something and win something big. And really just to see your face and tell you how much we appreciate you and answer any questions that you may have of us. So you should be expecting one of these or more of these faces in this on this image to come visit you sometime between the end of this week and the end of next week. And you should receive an email from whoever's visiting, just giving you a heads up and maybe a little bit of a date range or time range so you can, clean your consoles off or whatever you choose to do. I know where I used to work, when someone came to visit, it was like, oh, we got someone visiting, get the paper towels up and wipe it up and it's dirty, all the things. So don't feel like you have to, but if you choose to, you'll have a heads up. Anybody have any questions for me? I think that's all I've got. There you go.
Thanks.
Yes, sir.
All right, so just a few reminders and deadlines. The Ethics Commission Statement of Economic Interest is due for all who must file on April 30th. These, as they get in their PDF form, those blue links should work and send you to the appropriate website to show you A, who must file, and B, the form to do so. Make sure you do that so they don't come after you for whatever consequences for not filing that.
Pretty big fine, isn't it? $1,000 or something like that?
I mean, any fine's a big fine if you
Yeah,
ask me.
that's
It's just
true.
wasted money. So make sure you fill that out if you need to. Also, Grant Cycle 11 was opened last week, I believe the 30th of March. Just to highlight a few things about that, this is solely underlined, bolded for NG911 capable CPE. as we move forward into the next iteration of the FCC Report and Order 24-78 to start accepting PITA flow from telco service providers. If you supply us with an application that is for anything other than CPE, it will not make it through the evaluation. So the deadline for those is going to be June 19th. If you have any questions, please reach out to me, and I'm happy to provide any insight there. Oh yes, we do also. We will take a hardship grant at any point in time in the year. There does not have to be an open grant cycle. Right now, the requirement for that is a letter request that is detailed of the need, and then any supporting documentation for the cost to fulfill said need addressed to our board. It will then be put on the agenda for the next board meeting and discussed. Staff may reach out to you for additional information in the meantime when we receive those letters and when they end up on an agenda. But that is available to any ECD, validly formed ECD, out there at any point in time in the year.
So what might be an example of a hardship? See, I'm new here.
That's very fair. Let's see. What if you had an important system like, let's just say a recorder, or maybe you had not refreshed your CPE after the refresh point in time, and a PC powering position in your 911 center died, and you had only Mevo to answer 911 calls. That might be considered a hardship. If you didn't have available funding, in your reserves or anything like that to pay for those things that are the cost of doing business. But if you don't have the money to pay for it and you need to continue operations,
right,
that's probably the best way to put that. If anything you need to continue operations that you might not have available funding for, either locally or in your own ECD reserves, would be something that you might want to submit for.
What if you're neighbors with another district that you're trying to help in some way and they don't have the money to fund it, and you need to help them, say with mutual recording? Would that consider?
I mean, I would think so. Ultimately, all these decisions boil down to our full board for vote and discussion and whatnot. But certainly, that is a creative solution to a problem.
Yep.
So, absolutely. If there is ever any question about what might constitute a hardship grant, let's have a conversation about it. Not just with me. We'll wrap all sorts of people into it that work here, and try to find a solution. So. The point there is that is not dependent upon a calendar. That is available at any point in time in the year.
And that's been used before previously, right?
Most recently by a county that did not have call handling, and was making is making some moves to improve the service that they provide and the way that they do business. And so they requested a hardship grant to be able to have CPE and get off Mevo, and the board approved that grant, and I believe they are live as of last month, maybe even the month before, since we're not able to keep up with our calendars appropriately. And it has been a great improvement in the way that they've been able to conduct business there.
Good deal. That answers my question. Yeah. So that's an interesting thing, right? Is that this organization exists to support those that are doing the work locally. Not only through the financial distribution that you get, but also through that type of granting mechanism if you have a hardship that takes place, or if you're trying to help somebody that has experienced, another ECD that's experienced hardship. So.
And again, those situations are going to vary much more than a standard grant cycle. So please reach out and let's talk about it. And even if we need to come to you, we're happy to jump in our caravan and come down or up or across, wherever. All right, a couple reminders. Remember, we do have the reimbursement programs, both the Legacy 911 reimbursement and the PST certification reimbursement. For those, they are due the 10th of every month to be paid out at the end of those months' submissions. Also, we're happy to post any job offerings that you might have out there on our website. Please reach out to Michelle, and she'll ask for a little bit of required information to get that posted. And then, as always, with GIS data, please upload, validate, and aggregate your GIS data often.
You'll get an award for it.
You will get an award for it, but not only that, your data will stay as up to date as it possibly can. We probably could have a whole talk about it Tuesday on data recency. Those things are important. They will become more important as we start feeding this data into the core for utilization day in and day out. At that point, I would tell you that 6-month-old data can't be the standard. Like we need you guys to get in the habit of finding a workflow and a frequency for data updates that fits your needs. Obviously, there are places that grow faster in our state than others, but that's something that we certainly need to start getting in the habit of as far as the data stewards you guys are as ECDs and PSAPs.
And if you need help with that, that's what we're here for.
No doubt. Also, come to VEP training if you're not sure how to do that. April 16th and 17th, Tuscaloosa.
I'll be there.
Any questions?
There is nothing in the chat.
Thank you, Michelle. All right. Well, we're excited to be here and help you. If you need something moving forward, give us a call, shoot us an email. I don't think we have a slide on here with all our contact information, but if you need anything, please reach out.
Have a good one.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Bye,
guys.
everybody.